Hello everyone, welcome to the presentation about Karl Marx, who is a German philosopher. In this presentation, we're going to check and analyze some kind of aspects about the biography and context, the main ideas and contribution, his impact and legacy in the world, also the criticisms and controversies, and finally, the personal context and current legacy. So my classmate is going to talk about the biography of Karl Marx.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about a little bit about of biography of Karl Heinrich Marx. He was born on May 5, 1818, in Trier, Prussia, that nowadays is Germany. He passed away on March 14, 1883, in London, England, at the age of 64. Marx is best known for founding the First International and for his seminal works such as Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto, which explored uh, capitalism, exchange value, and the philosophy of history. Some, Something about historical and cultural context is that he lived during the 19th century, a time of significant political, social, and economic change in Europe, marked by the Industrial Revolution, which created widespread social inequalities. Key events like the Napoleonic Wars, the Congress of Vienna, and the Revolution of 1848 reflect growing dissatisfaction with traditional monarchies. Cultural movements such as the Enlightenment and Romanticism also shaped the era. Educational background: Marx was educated at home until age of 12, before attending the Friedrich Wilhelm Gymnasium in Trier, where he studied subjects like Latin, Greek, history, and math. He initially studied law at the University of Bonn, but later transferred to the University of Berlin, where he developed a deep interest in philosophy, particularly the ideas of Hegel. In Berlin, Marx joined the Young Hegelians, a radical group critical of religion and society. This experience, combined with his exposure to the social inequalities of industrial capitalism, profoundly influenced his later works. Next, my classmate continued to the explanation.
Okay, so now as the second point of this is about philosophical ideas. Karl Marx developed several influential philosophical ideas that have shaped modern thought and political theory. One of his most important contributions is the concept of historical materialism, that is the one that talks in the first line, which posits that the material conditions of a society's mode of production fundamentally shape its social structures, political institutions, and ideology. Marx argued that the economic base, the means of production and relation of production, determines the superstructure, law, politics, and culture, and that changes in the base lead to changes in the superstructure. Next, please. Now to talk about the major works that my classmate mentioned it was the Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital. These are the major works that he did in his time, and it was really important to the other countries, to the other cities, to make a political thing in their countries. First, we'll talk about the Communist Manifesto, that this was in 1848, that this was a collaborative work with Friedrich Engels, where Marx outlined his vision for a society without class divisions. This means that we wouldn't have divisions on every class. It won't be a working class and an ownership class. That was how Marx told. It is called to action for the working class to unite and overthrow and the capitalism system. And the last major work was Das Kapital, that this was 1867 and 1894. He analyzed how goods are produced and how profits are made, and why capitalism is inherently unstable and exploitative. These were the major works of Karl Marx. Next, please.
Okay, then we have the impact and legacy. As we already know, Karl Marx is one of the most influential thinkers in history, left at lasting impacts across multiple fields, including philosophy, economics, sociology, and political theory. And next, please. We are going to talk about each of them. First of all, we have philosophy. Marx's work is deeply philosophical, particularly his concept of historical materialism, which argues that material conditions and economic factors are the primary influence on society structures and historical change. He is considered one of the key figures in the hermeneutics of the term coined by the philosopher Paul Ricoeur, alongside Freud and Nietzsche. We already know that these last philosophers are well known to consider and to tell different kind of aspects in life. At the same time, the philosophical approach critically examines underlying powers, dynamics, and ideologies that shapes the human society. Marx's theories also challenge traditional metaphysical concepts by linking them to social and economic realities. And now we're going to talk about the economic side. Marx's contributions to economics are fundamental, particularly his labor theory of value and the theory of surplus value that are almost the same. His critique of capitalism, which he saw as inherently exploitative, the theory lands in the ground group's Marxian economics, influencing both socialist and capitalist thought. Concepts such as capitalism accumulation, the business cycle, and the class struggle has been incorporated to the economic theory of them, while his analysis of labor and capital continues to be relevant discussions about workers' rights and economic inequality. Then we have the contribution to sociology. Marx is often regarded as one of the founders of modern sociology. His ideas about class struggles, models of production, and the role of economics in shaping structures are central to sociological analysis nowadays. His works influence the study of social institutions and the relationship between individuals and the larger society, particularly in terms of power dynamics and inequality related to the work environment. And the last but not least is the politics. Politically, Marx's idea has inspired revolutions and the formation of socialist states throughout the 20th century, most notably the Soviet Union, who is already disappeared, China and Cuba. We already know that those states or those countries are managed by the communism, which is really similar to the theory of Marx, which is created in base of communism. However, it's not the communism we already know nowadays. And while this theory has been adopted and often altered by various political movements, the influence of Marxists through the global political ideologies remains profound. His work has been both lauded and inspired movements towards social justice and criticized for the outcomes of some Marxist-inspired regimes. One of the examples about this one is the beginning of the First and Second World War, which was created by the movement on the regime of Italy, which is the whole party is created based to the communists of Karl Marx. However, the ideas that are presented in this one are not related with the base or the roots of the people who we're talking about. And this is for the impacts of them.
Now we're going to talk about the criticism and controversy. Karl Marx's idea have faces significant scrutiny and controversy during his lifetime. So here we have a detailed look at the main criticisms and controversies surrounding his work. Please, the next one. First one, we have the economic determinists. Critics argue that Marx overemphasized the role of economic conditions in shaping human behavior and the social structures. So So these make negligence or with along with factors such as politics, cultures, and individual agencies. Then we have the nature of socialism and communism. Communism, yes. Critics argue that the historical framework they not could like along or address how such the system will handle economic condition and also how the individual motivation and political governance are gonna work like together. We have the class struggle and revolution. These some critics point the failure of such revolutions in many capitalist societies and argue that Marx understood that the resilience and adaptability of capitalist system. Then we have the historical materialism, and is like which assess the driven by material economic forces. And the critic says that because of the view of Marx, he just like want to recognize what he knows and what he see, know what is happening for you. Then we have the economic predictions. Marx economic predictions about the concentration of capital and the impressive misery of the proletariat make a whole different, and he was just like so criticized about this because of his works in his theories. Then we have the controversies. We have four of them. That is the Marxians and the totalitarianism. This is the most significant controversy surrounding to Marx ideas because it's the association of Marxism with totalitarian regimes, and particularly the Soviet Union under Stanley Mice. So these other states claim to follow Marxist principles, and they just only adapt themselves for how they think they will use. We have the role of the ideology and this adaptation of Marxist principles by various revolutionary movements and political parties had led intense ideological battles. Then we have the scientific socialism, and a Marx label on this theory that scientific socialism implying a rigorous empirical approach to understanding society. And the last one is the interpretation and implementation. We talks about how you can just like interpret and implement something. And a lot of schools on Trotsky and Moisen in German have led to varied and sometimes conflict about how to use this theory. Thank you.
Now I'm going to talk about personal context and current legacy. Like the first point, we have critique of religion and society. Marx's early writings reflect a critical stance against religion, which he saw as a tool used by the ruling classes to maintain control over the oppressed. He thought on the famous statement, religion is the opium of the people, captured his belief that religion was used to pacify the masses. The second point here is exile and poverty. Marx spent much of his life in political exile, moving from Germany to France, Belgium, and finally England. His family often lived in poverty, which sharpened his critique of the capitalist system and fueled his determination to fight for a classist society. The third point is desire for social justice. At the core of Marx's motivation was a desire to understand and dismantle two structures of oppression and exploitation. He saw capitalism as a system that inherently produced inequality and motivated by the vision of a future classes society where the means of production would be collectively leading to true freedom and equality for all. The next one, please. Current legacy. Karl Marx's legacy continues to be significant due to his key influence on academic fields like economics and sociology. his inspiration for global political movements, and his ongoing relevance in critique capitalism. Despite debates and controversies surrounding his ideas, Marx's work remains a crucial part of discussion in both intellectual circles and political debates. Thank you.
Well, this is the end of the presentation, so thank you so much for listening to us.